Love isn't a shortcut to a sunset. It's a lantern you carry through the rooms of a day. Through quiet conversations and stubbornness. Through laughter that won't quit and tears that teach you what you're really made of. We ask a simple question with a timeless answer. Why do Shakespeare's love stories still feel like real romance? The answer isn't in grand declarations alone, but in the way ordinary moments become foundations, and fear becomes courage. And two people decide to stay curious about each other long after the applause fades. From the very first page, Shakespeare invites us into a promise that romance can survive more than bright first impressions. It can endure the messy weather of life, the thorns of pride, the weight of social expectations, and the ever-present temptation to quit. Real romance, he suggests, is less about the perfect moment and more about the patient work of choosing each other again and again. It's in the late conversations after the party, when two souls finally listen. Consider Beatrice and Benedick, a sharp duet that starts with wit and ends with a vow. They are not saved by a single grand confession. They are won by the cumulative acts of honesty, the courage to reveal what scares them, and the stubborn choice to show up as they truly are. In the garden of their banter, the truth slips in, a truth about longing, about devotion, about letting someone in after years of guarding the heart. Their romance is a reminder that love often begins in stubbornness and grows into tenderness. That laughter can be the doorway through which sincerity slips inside. It's not all dramatic thunder and candlelight. It's the quiet daily decision to be seen, to be kind, to choose forgiveness when pride would rather protect itself. Rosalind and Orlando give us another angle on real romance, one that feels practical and livable. Rosalind's disguise as Ganymede becomes a lens through which Orlando must honestly examine his own feelings, his habits, and the ways he tends to hide behind bravado. The spark is not a single kiss. It's a shift in how they communicate when the mask falls away and truth takes the stage. In a world where romance can be performative, Shakespeare's couple shows the power of honest vulnerability. They don't pretend to be perfect, they learn to listen, to consider the other's dream as part of their own. Real romance, in this telling, requires not perfection but a patient willingness to grow up together, to reframe needs as shared quests rather than private triumphs. And then there's the mischief and magic of the lovers in A Midsummer Night's Dream, where misplaced affection becomes a playful, painful, unmistakable reminder. Love is not a flawless map but a wild river that chooses its own course. The lovers stumble, mirror each other's fears, and still return to what matters: trust. The forest in Shakespeare's hands isn't a getaway from reality. It's a mirror where fear is faced. Apologies are offered without pride, and the dawn finds its way to a more honest love. Real romance discovers its footing not only in consent and clarity but in the courage to admit when you're wrong, to try again, to hold on when your own feelings mislead you. Romeo and Juliet, perhaps the most famous couple of all, arrive with ardent, blazing intensity. Yet Shakespeare doesn't allow their love to exist only in the fire of youth. He invites us to see how a flame can illuminate what matters and, perhaps, demand more wisdom than a heart can supply alone. The story becomes a cautionary mirror: romance that lacks patience, or lacks a map for two to grow within a world that pulls them apart, can burn away what could have endured. What survives in the best versions of romance is not the absence of danger but the presence of choice to stay, to listen, to work through fear, to build a shared life even when the road there is thorny. Real romance, in its strongest moments, forgives, not to erase mistakes but to welcome a future where mistakes become lessons, and love becomes a practice rather than a performance. What Shakespeare offers beyond the fireworks is a grammar for hope. Across his plays, romance is less a single moment of inevitability and more a slow translation of two lives into a shared language. They learn to negotiate what they want with what the other needs, to speak plainly even when the truth hurts, and to refuse to abandon a vow when the world pushes them apart. True love, in this light, is patient. It tolerates the awkward silences, the second chances. The tiny gestures that accumulate until they feel like something larger than either person could have imagined alone. Let us talk about the ordinary moments that matter. A late night call when you're tired, and the other person asks how your day really was, not just what happened. A stubborn habit you gently challenge in the spirit of care, not critique. A shared joke that lightens a heavy moment and reminds you why you chose this person in the first place. Shakespeare writes these scenes not as filler but as evidence that romance grows in the soil of daily life. In the small yes that become a routine yes. In the soft apologies that restore trust. In the stubborn loyalty that keeps showing up even when the magic seems to fade. The beauty of Shakespeare's love stories is that they don't pretend romance is flawless. They celebrate resilience, the ability to forgive, to change. To embrace a version of love that isn't a single moment of magic but a long, evolving conversation. In Beatrice and Benedick, we glimpse a romance that keeps choosing truth after truth. In Rosalind and Orlando, we witness a bond that grows deeper when the people involved learn to drop pretenses and share themselves honestly. In the husband and wife, friend and lover dynamics that run through many of his comedies. The triumph is not a rescue from trouble but a partnership capable of weathering trouble together. For our modern ears, these are not dusty lessons from a distant stage. They're maps for real-life romance, maps that remind us that a lasting connection is built on listening more than talking. On choosing the other's happiness alongside our own. And on remembering that love is not a final destination but a shared way of walking forward. If you want a sure way to recognize Shakespeare's real romance in your own life, look for these signs. The willingness to show up after a fight. The courage to admit you're wrong. The habit of asking for forgiveness and offering it freely. The humility to learn something new about yourself because of the person you love. And the laughter that stays when the world grows heavy. Real romance, as Shakespeare demonstrates, grows not from a single heroic gesture but from countless quiet acts of care that accumulate into something enduring. So if you're feeling a flicker of doubt about love, or if you're recovering from a heartbreak and wondering if a happily ever after could ever be true again, remember this. Shakespeare's love stories reflect something real in us. They echo the longing to be seen, to be held responsibly, to be chosen over and over again. They promise that love can endure not by erasing fear, but by meeting it with patience, humor, and a gentle, steadfast commitment to the other person's happiness. The romance on the page is not a fantasy brand of perfection. It's a mirror that shows how a real partnership can emerge from courage, curiosity, and kindness. If you've ever whispered a promise at dusk to try again tomorrow, you've touched the same thread that runs through Shakespeare's most beloved couples. If you've ever waited for a partner to return from a difficult day with a soft word, you've tasted a little of the tenderness he invites us to cultivate. And if you've ever faced a choice that felt too heavy to bear, Shakespeare invites you to choose love anyway. To keep tending the garden of trust. To keep showing up for the person you've chosen, even when passion wears a different face. As we close our exploration, let this be your gentle takeaway. Romance that lasts is born from steadiness, not spectacle, from listening, not shouting. From the brave decision to keep loving, even when the world asks you to retreat. Shakespeare isn't offering a relic of the past. He is handing you a living argument for hope, a case built on dialogue, vulnerability, and the everyday bravery it takes to keep loving well. And in that truth, we find what real romance looks like today, still possible, still bright, still worth believing in. Thank you for letting this story accompany you tonight. May you carry a little Shakespeare with you, the patient, stubborn, beautifully imperfect romance that grows with you in the hours you don't expect to be epic, but which end up being the one